Hey guys, it's Mrs. C, and I am here today to work out what is this going to be called? This is a lesson on solving quadratic equations using the square root method. Oh my gosh, that is so much to write. So, how about we write quads using square root method. So I guess one thing we have to do is just to talk about the basics of square roots and how much you know about them and what you think they are. So here's just a little tiny overview about what a square root is, okay? So if I asked you to find the square root of 25, what would you tell me? What would you say the square root of 25 is? Hopefully you would tell me that the square root is equal to 5, because 5 times 5 gives you 25. That's right. And also, if you hit it into a calculator, used, the square root key, and then typed in 25, enter, you would have been given the answer 5. But I have to tell you, that's just the positive root, meaning there's another root that we don't usually mention, and that's the fact that a negative 5 times a negative 5 is also equal to 25, which means that the square root of 25 is actually equal to what we call a positive negative 5 or a plus minus 5, meaning the answer is not only positive 5 but negative 5, because every root has a positive negative possibility, you could say. Let me try another one here for you. So if I just asked you what would be the square root of 49, think to yourself what two numbers times together to give you 49, and the answer is going to be 7, but technically it's plus minus 7. There are two options. Now, ordinarily what we do when we're solving square roots is we either give our answer in what is called radical form, which is in a radical form, meaning you use the square root and you write your answer in that form, unless, of course, it's a perfect square, which this one was. So, for example, if my answer in a problem comes out as the square root of 5, I would leave it as the square root of 5. But what if you're asked to give the answer in decimal form? What do you put? Well, you would type in to your calculator, square root of 5, enter, and the calculator is going to give you a decimal. Now, the square root of any number that is not a perfect square is irrational. Now, irrational means a number that is expressed as a decimal that is never ending, meaning it does not terminate and it does not repeat or show any pattern of repetition. And so it goes on much like the ever-popular symbol pi is irrational. Its value goes on forever, but there are just an infinite number of other irrational numbers. Pi is not the only one. So, here, in fact, woohoo, the square root of 5 is irrational. But if you were asked to give the square root of 5 in its irrational form, it would be less accurate because it never terminates and it never ends. So I would have to round the decimal. And oftentimes what we do is we're told what to round the decimal to. So let's say, here's a common one, is to round a decimal at this level of mathematics to the thousandths place. When you type in the square root of 5, you will be given a decimal that looks something like this. Let me clear my page for a minute. So the square root of 5 is equal to approximately, and here's my rounding symbol, I'll put a little dot above that, so 2.2360679, and then I run out of screen. Now, rounding to the thousandths place, tenths, hundredths, thousandths, means you're going to cut it off at that point, but always look over at the number there, 5 or higher, we're going to go up. So it's not 5 or higher. So our rounded decimal will be 2.236. So your answers when you're working with radicals, when you're working with irrational numbers and roots, we're going to round to the thousandths place. And your directions on whatever problem you're working on should tell you how to express your answer. Now in future, we're going to be learning how to express it in radical form, but we're not there yet. So let's take a look at a reason why I would even be doing a problem like this with you. 9x squared minus 1 equals 80. All right, let's look at what we know and what we don't know. What's new? Well, I'll tell you right now what's new. I hope you know what's new. We've never solved an equation that was a quadratic. Never have we solved an equation with anything that was higher than the degree of 1. And so this lends itself to be a little problematic because we don't know how to do that. So let me just show you how easy these are. Let me undo that. Let me draw my line, right, like I always do. And let me separate my letters from my numbers, for heaven's sakes. Follow the same rules. They still apply. So I'm going to have a 9x squared equal to an 81. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to divide both sides by 9. I'm just ignoring that x squared right now. I'm pretending it's not there. I'm in denial. X squared is equal to 81 divided by 9 is 9. So here's what I have. I have the answer x squared equals 9. I'm not allowed to leave my answer in that form because x is not by itself. So let's look up here. I'll rewrite it. X squared equals 9. What is the opposite of squaring a number? The opposite of squaring a number is taking the square root of a number. So square root this side and square root that side. Don't do this until your letter x is completely by itself except for the exponent, The square root of x squared is x, because x times x is x squared. Just trust me on that. The square and the square root cancel out. These two things, they cancel. What is the square root of 9? Square root of 9 is a perfect square. What times what? What times itself gives you 9? 3. The answer is 3, but please don't forget now that you're in Algebra 1, it's a positive negative 3 or a plus minus 3, meaning your answer is positive 3, negative 3. This, guys, is an easy way of saying x equals 3 and x equals negative 3. It could equal either of those. Now, you may not believe me. You can go ahead and use your Stow key. Plug in 3 there. 3 squared is what? 3 squared is 9. 9 times 9 is 81. 81 minus 1 is 80. That would check out. Sub in a negative 3. If you sub in a negative 3 squared is 9. 9 times 9 is 81. 81 minus 1 is 80. That checks out too. They both work. That's why both of them have to be part of the solution. Let's try another one. How about the worksheet I'm leaving you has some pretty big numbers, so we might as well just jump in on it. So here's a 8k squared, okay, minus 8 equals 440. See, these numbers, that's what I mean being big. There's a reason they're big. So let's go ahead, do what we do, right? Add 8 to both sides. Add 8 to both sides. Just follow the process. That would be 448. And that's an 8k squared. We've got to divide both sides by 8. So we've got to go off to the calculator. I could do this old school, but if you'll forgive me, I'm just going to hit my trusted calculator, and I am typing 448 divided by 8. Enter 56. I got a 56 equal to k squared. And then I'm going to do the square root of both sides, and I'll get k is equal to, Well, what is the square root of 56? I don't know what the square root of 56 is. That's not a perfect square. What's it between? Think about the whole numbers times themselves. Say, for example, start with 4. 4 times 4 is 16. Nowhere near 56. How about 5 times 5, 25. 6 times 6, 36. 8 times 8, 64. Ooh, I went over. 7 times 7, 49. So it's somewhere between 7 and 8. Because 7 times 7 is 49. And 8 times 8 is 64. So the square roots of those would give you, square root of 49 would be 7, square root of 64 would be 8. So the answer to the square root of 56 is somewhere between those. And so let's find out, using a calculator, what it would be. Now you should grab your cell phones and type in the square root of 56. I'm going to give you a little smartphone lesson. When you go to your calculator, you need to use the scientific notation. So, turn it landscape so that it gives you the scientific calculator. And unlike your graphing calculator, which you might not have at home, you have to type the 56 first. 56, and then hit the little square root key. It's going to give you what I told you. It's a number between 7 and 8, and it's 7. I'm in eraser mode. Hang on a second. It's 7.4833. 4833. But we round it off after the third decimal place, and that 3 is not a 5 or higher. So I'm going to cut it off, and I'm going to make sure, I'm going to do it in another color so you see how important it is. Make sure you write plus minus, because it's both positive 7.483 and negative 7.483. Alright, I'm going to do one more, guys, and then I'm going to set you off on the task of doing this worksheet. Let's do 6b squared plus 6 equals 11. No, negative 11. Alright, again, 6b squared plus 6 equals negative 11. Again, follow the process you have been following forever. We're just going to get the b as much by itself as we can. This is a really yucky problem. Oh my gosh. Am I doing this right? Did I copy it right? Always double check. Yeah, I'm doing it right. Okay, minusing 6 from both sides gives me a negative 17. Divide both sides by 6. That's going to give me 17 divided by 6. And then we're going to get b squared equal to a negative. Let's get a decimal. It shouldn't be too horrible. So I'm going to go ahead and do 17 divided by 6. 17 divided by 6 to get a decimal. Now, we're used to me saying don't do that. So, I know you're used to me saying I like fractions, but I think I would actually prefer, I'm going to leave it like this. This is a repeated decimal, just so you know. You're not looking at it in the calculator. And we're supposed to get the square root of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just hitting the square root key right away. And that's going to find the square root of that number. Because look here, I got to do square root. And not only that, I'm trying to find the square root of a negative number, which you can't do. Which is just leaving me completely dumbfounded. Did they give me no solutions? Hold, please. Alright, guys, I am back. I'm really glad I did this problem, because if you had gone to your worksheet and gotten this, you might have been really confused. I thought I had told it not to generate these, what we call imaginary solutions, but it did it anyway. So I want to go back, and I guess now's the better time than any. I'm just going to erase this, because at this point I think I should have noticed, but I wasn't expecting it. Okay, so I'm going to come back here. Don't freak out. We have a b squared equal to, I'm going to keep it in, just let me keep it in its fraction form for a minute, 17 over 6. All right, When we take the square root of both sides here, I'm going to use a different color, square root, we can't take the square root of a negative number because there is no number times itself that will give you a negative answer, because to get a negative product, it's always a negative times a positive. So all you need to know is that you can't get the square root of a negative number, at least right now in Algebra 1, before we've dealt with imaginary solutions. I know I just said it, imaginary solutions. So what you're going to write at this point is no, where's my pen? The answer to this question is no real solution. Which I thought I told my computer to not generate a no real solution problem. But anytime you get the variable squared by itself and this is negative, you write no real solution. And remember, I'm giving you an answer key, so you can always check to see if that's the right answer. Well, now I've got to do another one because that didn't bode well. So let's do 4 minus 7, says r squared. I think, yep, r squared, there it is equal to a negative 248. 248, negative, okay. I think I got it copied right. Now let's go with it, guys. Minus 4 from both sides. And don't freak out with all the negatives, it's okay. Negative 248 and a negative 4 is going to give us a negative 252. Yep, I'm just double checking. Divide by a negative 7. Divide by a negative 7. Let's find out what that comes out to be. So I'm going over to my handy-dandy calculator. I am typing in. I think I'm going to clear it. I'm typing in, forget the signs, 252 divided by 7. Enter. Oh, it always feels good when you get an answer that looks like that. And what a great way to end the day. So those cancel out, leaving me with my r squared, which I'm going to take the square root of to get r by itself. And I wind up with r equal to, what's the square root of 36? Don't even need a calculator for that. Square root of 36, r is equal to plus minus 6. Final answer. Wow, that's a much nicer one to end with than that imaginary solution we dealt with before. All right, now the sheet that you have to do is just a whole big page, and I think for anybody else who's watching, or if you're at home and you don't have the page in front of you, let me go ahead and put it up on the screen. Okay, so I think it should come up right here. All right, not too bad. It's a little blurry, but it should work for you. You can kind of see what we're doing. It says solve each equation by taking square roots. Round your answer to the nearest thousandth. So there are several of these that I've done for you. The answer key is actually provided for you in class. Sorry if you're just some random stranger from the World Wide Web. Maybe you're from Australia or China, who knows. Welcome, but I don't have an answer key for you. Sorry about that. Go ahead and give these a try. Check them out with your calculator. Get your answers. They are saying specifically right here to round to the nearest thousandth. So that is 3 decimal places. And don't forget your positive, negative solutions for these, okay? Good luck with it. And when I get back, I will see you on the flip side.